Hi, I'd like to thank our host, the Southwest Chula Vista Civic Association, and to the candidates for being willing to participate in this candidates forum. My name is Sheila Toll. I'm a proud member of the League of Women Voters, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. Okay. This forum is for the City of Chula Vista City Attorney. We would like to thank both candidates, Bart Miesfeld and Marco Verdugo, for attending. And most importantly, we'd like to thank you all for coming and becoming an informed voter. The League is proud to be nonpartisan. We neither support nor oppose candidates or political parties, but we're always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public. Okay? For clarity, I do not live in Chula Vista, so I am nonpartisan when it comes to this race. This forum is an opportunity for you to ask questions that you care about most and a chance for the candidates to explain their positions. It is a forum with the voters, not a debate between candidates. Okay? We are using the League of Women Voters format for this candidate forum. As part of our mission to educate voters, the League moderates candidate forums using a format that we feel is fair and informative, and these candidates have agreed to this format in advance. Okay? A little bit about how this is going to work. The candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. They'll have 2 minutes for their closing statements, and in between these, they will have 1 minute to answer the questions you pose. Okay? In order for us to keep us on track, our League member Wendy Young will be our timekeeper. She will be helping the candidates by holding up paddles at the agreed upon intervals. When time has run out, she will raise a stop sign. Candidates, you will need to finish your sentence at that time. The most important part of this forum is hearing from you and the questions you may have for the candidates. We have 2 League pages. Sarah O'Leary is over there. Mary Santo is here. They can pass out index cards and pens. You can write your question on them and hand it back to them. There will be no verbal questions from the floor. You can ask as many questions as you desire, but please use a separate card for each question. Word your questions in a general way so that all candidates can respond. Please remember to use civility and respect in wording of your question. Keep them succinct. If you have commentary prefacing a question, I will not be reading that. Questions directed specifically to one candidate will be held until there are specific questions for all candidates. Okay? And the volunteers, they can assist you if you have a question on how to write it. The questions cards are then given to our question screeners. They're League members Vicki Riggs, Stephanie Sontag, and Teresa Acero from the Southwest Chula Vista Civic Association. They organize the questions into topic categories of similar nature. We're trying to make sure that we get all your questions answered and all of the topics covered. Questions not appropriate for this branch of government will be set aside. Okay? So, in addition to asking excellent questions, you have some other responsibilities in making this forum a success. Please hold all applause until the forum is finished. This allows us to ask more questions and keeps things moving. Since the candidate forum is designed to provide nonpartisan setting for undecided voters to hear all positions, any demonstrations of support or opposition, such as clapping or booing, to the candidates or their positions will be out of order. Unheeded warnings may result in the cancellation of the forum. Okay. Now we are ready to begin. For their opening statements, we will begin with Marco.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Marco Verdugo. I am a native of Chula Vista, born and raised, lifelong member of this community. I'm a husband, I'm a father of 3 young children, I've been a deputy city attorney, and I'm a candidate for Chula Vista city attorney. Now, what does a city attorney do? Well, we provide the guidance to our city officials. Like any corporation, the city is a municipal corporation and requires legal answers to legal questions. And that's what we do. We provide guidance to our city officials, our city council, every city employee to make sure we keep this city functioning efficiently. It's a job I've done my entire career. I've started off as an intern in the Chula Vista City Attorney's Office. Built upon that, went to the San Diego City Attorney's Office where I spent about a decade. I've seen every legal issue that cities deal with, from development agreements to standard contracts to assisting the city with litigation. It's what I've done my entire career. I've been tested, I've proven myself, and that's why San Diego City Attorney Maura Elliott has endorsed my campaign. I hope to restore trust and accountability to the city. I'm the only candidate that has released a comprehensive anti-corruption plan to deal with the issues that we're dealing with today. I want to make sure that we protect Chula Vista. Let's make sure every neighborhood in this city is safe. Let's provide our first responders, our police, our fire, with the tools, training, and resources they need to keep every portion of the city safe. And let's make sure we keep Chula Vista prosperous. I'm going to provide our city council, our policymakers, with the legal framework to make sure that our processes, our procedures are streamlined so we can keep this city running efficiently. I am a product of this community, and I'd like nothing more than to give back to the city that raised me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Bart Miesfeld. I'm also running for city attorney. You know, the city attorney's position should not be a political position. What you should think about is who's most qualified and does he have proven integrity. Unlike my opponent, I've actually been the city attorney of Chula Vista before. I worked 20 years in the office. And as far as integrity, I think that's reflected by the bipartisan, overwhelming support I have for my campaign. A little bit about myself. I have a BS degree in engineering. I graduated with highest distinction, magna cum laude, from law school. I completed a postgraduate program of instruction of law at Harvard Law School. I actually taught law at USD as an adjunct professor. I'm a trial attorney. But most importantly, in 1998, I came down and started working in the Chula Vista City Attorney's Office as a deputy city attorney. I was promoted to assistant city attorney to senior assistant city attorney until finally I was unanimously appointed by the mayor and council as the city attorney, and I did that for several years. So am I most qualified? Without a doubt. As far as integrity goes, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the people that worked with me for 20 years, the civic leaders, as to whether or not I have integrity. You know, I have all 6 mayors from both sides of the aisle endorsing me, saying I have the experience and the integrity to be the city attorney. You know, Mary Salas, Steve Padilla, Greg and Cheryl Cox, Shirley Horton, and Mayor John McCann. Now, they don't agree on much, but they all agree I'm the one that should be the next city attorney because I have the proven experience and proven integrity. I just close with a quote from former police chief David Bejarano, who also is endorsing me. He said that throughout his career, Bart Miesfeld has dedicated himself to public service with the highest ethical standards. I did that before for 20 years, and I intend to do it again. You know, obviously to be the city attorney, for the elected city attorney, you have to live in Chula Vista. So I live on the west side here at Urbana. I started working in Chula Vista in 1998. I worked here day in, day out, week after week, year after year for 20 years. I know what this question is trying to imply, that somehow I'm not rooted in the community or that I don't have community connections. I put my heart and soul for this city. I care deeply about it. My mother lived here. She died at Frederica Manor. My wife's worked here for years and years. She was a deputy district attorney here. I'm deeply rooted in the community, and that, again, shows by the people who live here, the bipartisan support of really every city manager, every city attorney, and every city mayor in the past 25 years who worked with me, endorsed me.
Marco?
Well, unlike my opponent, I'll answer the question. I've lived here my entire life. Literally born on 4th Avenue, just blocks from here. Grew up on the west side of Chula Vista. Currently live on the east side of Chula Vista. I've lived in every part of this city. I've seen this community grow and double in size. We've got a lot of issues, and I know these issues because I've lived here. I've lived through it. And I think it really does take somebody with the perspective of a community member to help solve these issues.
Thank you. For this next question, we'll start with Marco. Do you have experience dealing with code enforcement and nuisance abatement matters? Please explain.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of advising multiple cities around the region and really up and down the coast of California. And as part of my work advising cities, we deal with a number of code enforcement issues, from street vending to flags people want to fly. I've dealt with all the issues that cities deal with, including code enforcement and nuisance abatement.
Bart.
Sure. As a city attorney, the city attorney's office is in charge of the municipal code and enforcing it. So code enforcement, obviously, we've done. Nuisance abatement is part of that. I spent most of my career as the chief of the litigation division in the city attorney's office, and code enforcement and nuisance abatement fell within my purview.
Okay. This next question will start with Bart. Do you believe that all the surveillance that the city of Chula Vista is doing violates people's privacy rights? Why or why not?
Well, it's a broad question. I'm not quite sure what all of the surveillance means, but I know there's litigation. I know there's, like this? Is it good? No? Ah, there we go. Sorry. So I would need a little bit more specifics, but if you're talking about the drone litigation that's going on, that's working its way through the courts, I don't know if privacy issues are being violated in that or not. As the hopefully next city attorney, I don't want to get into a position where there's a conflict of interest on that, but certainly if privacy rights are being violated, the city attorney should take care of that and make sure that doesn't occur.
Marco?
Yeah, we've got in every endeavor, we really have to help the city find a balance between our civil liberties and the technology that our law enforcement and our first responders are using. And I think it takes a collaborative effort and really that trust between our residents and our police officers with whatever, and really the city as a whole, with whatever technology the city is implementing or using in order to help keep this city safe. And I really think we need a lot of outreach for new technology, and we need to work on a policy for implementing new technology to make sure that civil liberties are protected whenever we have new technology, which is happening on a daily basis. Technology is changing. Cities have the ability to take advantage of that, but we need to make sure that we are open, honest, and have that conversation with our community.
Okay, this next question will start with Marco. What can the city attorney do to combat homelessness?
Homelessness is a vexing issue up and down the state of California and really nationwide. The city attorney can do a lot. We've seen that in other cities and the approaches they are taking to homelessness, whether it's drafting an ordinance, advising our city how to properly deal with this. It's going to take a multifaceted approach. We need to make sure we streamline housing that families can afford. Let's not delay that. The city attorney has a huge role in making sure things run smoothly at the city. And to the extent our policymakers want to implement an ordinance that prevents people from camping on the sidewalk, near schools, at parks, Well, we play a huge role in making sure that any ordinance that the city is wanting to enforce is legally enforceable and will withstand a legal challenge. Right now, when we're talking about homelessness, the Supreme Court has granted cert on a couple of the more recent homelessness cases. So we're going to get some guidance from the Supreme Court. And I think we need to be patient and have a methodical approach to this.
Yes, as most of you know, the city attorney is a non-policy making position, but that doesn't mean we don't affect policy. So on issues like homelessness, which is just the issue of our time right now, the city attorney can do a lot. The first thing they can do is we can support our law enforcement, make sure we give them fast, accurate legal advice and the support they need to keep our neighborhoods safe and the homeless safe, actually, to tell you the truth. And then, like Marco said, we're responsible for making sure whatever ordinances are put into place, are drafted legally, are legally implemented, and that the policymakers, the council mayor, those people have the fast, accurate legal advice so that they can develop policies that work in the future.
Okay, this next question, we'll start with Bart. Will you advise the council on ethical behavior when necessary, and it's why or why not?
That's probably one of the biggest jobs I think that the city attorney has, particularly when we have new council members. We have a lot of new council members that, some of these issues you don't learn in your day-to-day job. Well, that's part of my job, to know the Brown Act, to know the Public Records Act, to know the conflict of interest laws, and to advise and make sure that the council members stay within the bounds of the law. So that'll be one of my highest priorities, particularly right now, as we all know, South Bay's kind of sick of corruption down here. And so as city attorney, you're the top legal dog to keep them on the straight and narrow. A lot of times maybe they don't know the law. It's not that they're trying to be malicious. They just need a good, experienced attorney to tell them what they can and cannot do.
Marco?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big part of our job. A couple weeks ago, I actually gave ethics training to the city of San Clemente, the entire city. And that's going to be part of the city attorney job moving forward. Every periodically, our city officials need that refresher training. And so that's what we do, a 2-hour training on all of our ethics rules, conflicts, filling out your Form 700, all of that. I'm an expert in ethics laws, conflicts of interest laws, and I look forward to being able to advise our city council and all city officials really when they have questions regarding ethics. The one thing I always want to do is I want to have that relationship with all of our officials so that they feel comfortable coming to me with ethical dilemmas or ethical issues that they need responses to. That's a big part of the job, and I look forward to doing it.
Okay, for this next question, we'll start with Marco. Will you address neighborhoods which have so many parked cars and abandoned vehicles that people cannot park and there's no room for trash cans?
As Bart had mentioned previously, it's not that this position is not a policy-making role, but I believe in taking a proactive approach to things. And so when I see an issue, I look forward to being able to advise our city staff, our elected officials, on the best way to deal with it. When it comes to things like oversized vehicles parked in a place for too long, or abandoned vehicles, those are things that we can advise our policymakers on, so that we can develop policies, ordinances, resolutions to make sure we deal with these issues. So to the extent that the community in any particular area of the city is experiencing an issue with abandoned cars, oversized vehicles, people living in RVs, and to the extent that the city policymakers from a policy perspective want to address that issue, I look forward to being able to advise our city staff so that whatever policy we come up with is legally enforceable and will withstand legal challenge.
Sure. So these are issues that are, really important to the community. And so one of the things that I want to do as the elected city attorney is making sure that I'm connected to the community and I hear their concerns. When I was city attorney, we had a dedicated neighborhood, I think we call it neighborhood policing deputy city attorney. I think that was a good idea. That deputy city attorney under me was supposed to go out and make contact with the community and find out what their problems are. As far as these specific problems with oversized vehicle and too many cars parking, there are already laws and municipal code on the books. They need to be enforced. And to do that, as city attorney, you need to give fast, accurate legal advice to the police department. Another thing that I did when I was city attorney, and I'm certainly going to do it again, is I'm going to have a deputy city attorney that's dedicated to the police department, that is actually located in the police department, so that when they need issues and legal advice on enforcing these laws, they'll be able to go to a deputy city attorney immediately and get it done.
Marco? Sorry, okay, Bart, this next question will start with you. Regarding gun violence, the city allows restraining orders when they feel they would be helpful. How might the city increase awareness of this option?
Well, certainly we can just start getting the word out to the community through the city attorney's office. Like I said, I intend to have a neighborhood policing deputy city attorney who will be out in the community to let people know about the GVROs. We actually do have a deputy city attorney currently, Nicole Carnahan, who that's what she does. That's her job, is to enforce those restraining orders against the gun violence restraining orders. I'd continue that. Again, I'd make sure that program is ramped up, and through our communications department in the city of Chula Vista, that the word gets out to the community. The community organizations like Southwest Chula Vista Association know what that's about and how to take a handle of it if they need to.
Marco?
Yeah, I spent a lot of my career in the San Diego City Attorney's Office, and Mara Elliott, who I worked with closely and who has endorsed my campaign, is a big proponent of gun violence restraining orders, and it's done a lot to prevent unnecessary violence to the community. And I plan on ramping up what we have in the city of Chula Vista. A lot of people are totally unaware of what a gun violence restraining order is and how they can take advantage of it. But it's a civil approach where people that maybe are undergoing mental health emergencies and are a danger to themselves or others are separated from their firearms for a temporary period, usually about 21 days, until they can calm down and are mentally stable enough to get their firearms back. I think it's something that the city attorney can take an active approach on, and I plan to do that on publicizing this in the community, holding workshops in different areas of the city so that our residents could take advantage of this and we could prevent unnecessary gun violence.
Okay, for this next question, we'll start with you, Marco. What was or is your involvement with the Cardenas?
None. I met somebody out in the hallway before this, and we had a 30-second conversation. And that was longer than any conversation I ever had with Andrea Cardenas. I met Andrea Cardenas and her brother, Jesus, when I submitted my paperwork to run for office. I met them at a Democratic Club event. They were there, so were a lot of people. That's the extent of any affiliation or anything else having to do with Andrea Cardenas. She had offered to endorse my campaign after a couple weeks of hearing feedback from the community. We rejected that endorsement. And I've also announced a comprehensive anti-corruption plan to deal with the issues that she's gotten into. We need the ability to suspend members of our city council when they've been engaging in fraudulent conduct and claw back any money that's been paid. We also need to close the campaign finance loopholes that got her into this mess, And we need an independent auditor to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I've never met her, never seen her, never spoken to her. I had heard about Andrea and Jesus through the police department before she was charged. But yeah, I have no contact with her.
Next question, Bart, we'll start with you. What does financial integrity mean to you, and how do you uphold financial integrity when running for city attorney?
Ooh, good question. So I think financial integrity as a candidate requires that you be transparent and open. As Marco and I have had to learn, because Marco and I haven't really run for anything before, there's a lot of rules, from federal rules all the way down to Chula Vista campaign contribution ordinance. So as lawyers, that's kind of what we do. We have to learn the law and follow the law. So financial integrity means following those rules. Those rules are put in place to make sure things are on the straight and narrow and out in the open, and I think both Marco and I have done that.
Marco?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. Financial integrity means being open, being honest, being transparent. I think as city attorney, as any city official, we need to make sure that we're doing that, being open, being honest, making sure that all records are public. And it's a big issue. It's part of being ethical, it's part of having integrity, it's financial integrity. And I look forward to being able to restore that trust, that accountability to City Hall. We've had numerous issues of public records not being disclosed, and I look forward to opening the books with all of you so that we can see what's been going on, so that we can make public all of those records. Thank you.
Okay, Marco, we'll start with you. Back on the homeless, name 3 ideas for getting more homeless people in our little houses, which I believe are currently viewed as occupied.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Name 3 ideas for getting more homeless people in our little houses, which are currently viewed as occupied.
Are they occupied or are they viewed as occupied?
Well, it says currently viewed as occupied.
But are they occupied?
No, they're not.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't live here, I don't know. Okay, no, we're good.
Okay. I mean, to the extent that the city has shelter available that's not being utilized, I think that is astonishing, and we should correct that. I mean, we have a homelessness crisis. It's a big deal, and people need shelter. And if we have tiny homes or transitional shelter or temporary shelter or a sprung shelter or a safe parking site or a safe camping site, well, we need to utilize that. People need somewhere to be, especially at times of inclement weather, of rain, of excessive heat. People need somewhere, people need shelter, people need services. It's something I have a huge amount of experience dealing with. Making sure that we have sites available for people to go to, and making sure when they get there, they have the services that they need to get back on their feet.
Art?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge question, not only in Chula Vista, but throughout the state and the nation, is as everyone has learned by now, that a large majority of the homeless population is dealing with mental illness, mental issues, and drug and alcohol abuse. And a lot of times, those people they don't want to be in a small health shelter. So the question is, how do we get them to implement that? And hopefully, the policymakers and council members like Delfina Gonzalez, I see her sitting back there, will have some great ideas, and the city attorney's office will be in communication with them and make sure they're implemented fast and correctly, and we can get a handle on this problem.
Okay, Bart, we'll start with you on this one. In your opinion, how did it happen that Chula Vista was unprepared for illegal pot shops?
Sorry. Can you say it again?
In your opinion, how did it happen that Chula Vista was unprepared for illegal pot shops?
Well, I beg to differ with the question. I think Chula Vista was prepared, but it was a very difficult problem and continues to be a problem. The illegal pot shops, before we started issuing permits to legalize it, were popping up all over. And we called in the city attorney's office, we called it a game of whack-a-mole, because you use the resources, the court resources and police resources to finally get a handle on them and whack them down, and boom, they just moved 2 storefronts down and popped back up. And so from the city of Chula Vista's standpoint, the city attorney's office, we have 10 attorneys. We were dedicating a couple of attorneys alone for a while to that problem. We finally convinced, after meetings with Summer Steffen, for the DA's office to get involved. And with their resources, they were able to come down and get a handle on it. And certainly if it happens to that extent again, Summer and I have worked together for years, had a meeting with her recently, and I would involve her office immediately.
Marco?
Yeah, for too long, the city and our city attorney's office has been simply reacting rather than being proactive. And that's what I want to change. Let's not wait for problems to get out of hand. Let's be proactive. Let's anticipate the issues. Let's notice what's going on around the region, around the state, and let's be proactive about it. And that's the approach I've always taken, is being able to bring the new leadership, ingenuity, making sure we're proactive and taking a proactive approach to any issue that we see that may be impacting the city of Chula Vista in the future. It's something that the city attorney's office did when they went out and hired Nicole Carnahan to help deal with this issue, because she was working with me at the San Diego city attorney's office dealing with that same issue of illegal pot shops coming up, and they were up for too long. I had one close to my house that was open for so long I thought it was a legal pot shop. So I think we could have done a lot more, and that's the approach that I'm going to bring a more proactive city attorney.
Okay, this next question, we'll start with Marco. What do you take into consideration when you are vetting a city contract? It's a two-parter, so we're going to give them a little bit more time. So that's the first part. And how would that avoid an Ash Street debacle?
Yeah, well, you take everything into consideration, first of all. When I get any legal issue, whether it's your standard contract or anything else, the first thing I ask myself is, does this make sense? Not even from a legal perspective, but from a common sense perspective. And that's the approach I take. Does this make logical sense for the city to be doing this in the first place? And really, start asking questions of our staff and make sure that we've done the due diligence that we need to do before entering into any city contract, making sure that that contract has the requisite language to protect the city, make sure the deal as a whole makes sense for the city. And what was the second part of that question?
How would this avoid an Ash Street debacle?
Yeah, Ash Street, I assume you're talking about 101 Ash Street in the city of San Diego, outside the city of Chula Vista. I was in the San Diego City Attorney's office at the time this was going on. I had nothing to do with that particular agreement, but I've seen the mistakes that other cities have made, specifically regarding that particular contract. You got to be able to have all the information. You got to be able to advise staff to do the necessary due diligence when they're entering into any contract, whether it's a landscape maintenance contract for a low dollar amount or a big acquisition like 101 Ash.
Yeah, so as far as, I think the term was vetting an agreement or contract before it happens, you have to do just that. You have to do your due diligence. I think you need to think, as a city attorney, and even as a government employee, a lot of times employees just go, well, let's pull out the old contract and we'll just use it the same way. Can't do that. Every single contract you got to look at individually and new, and think outside the box. And then with important contracts like 101 Ash, the city attorney's office, at least while I was there, we did due diligence. I hired private investigators and did private investigation on the parties involved and their history, and made sure we knew before we got into an agreement with the party whether or not that's something that the city should or shouldn't do. And if you find out from the city attorney's standpoint that it's not, then you go to your council members, because they're the ones that make the decision. But you have to give them the advice as to, hey, here's the problem with this negotiation, and hopefully then you stay away from those type of problems. You know, obviously I wasn't in San Diego, so not involved with 101 Ash, so I don't know the particular deep-seated aspects of that problem with that contract.
Okay, we'll start with Bart on this one. Are there areas of the charter, city charter, that you think should be revised?
Yes. I think our council's already doing this. They should take a look at the charter related to the election of the city attorney on a number of issues. I know we should take a look at when an action or a charge or a malfeasance amounts to something that would be a removal of a policymaker. We have an issue right now with our council, and I think I'm not sure anybody's taken a look at that issue. So I think, what I would like to do actually is I'd like to meet with the Charter Review Commission. We have a commission that actually studies this and works on changes to it. I'd like to meet with them and find out what they're looking at. And the other thing I'd like to do, which is kind of a little bit offside, is we have a huge municipal code with all of our code rules and laws. And I bet that thing hasn't been reviewed in a decade. And we need to do a comprehensive review of that, just to even have it make sense still. Times change, so that's one of the things I would do.
Yeah, as part of my anti-corruption plan, I think we need to amend the charter and give the city the ability to remove council members or any elected official when they are engaging in criminal, fraudulent conduct. We have that situation right now. Unfortunately, our city cannot suspend a council member that has been indicted for fraud. Other cities have that ability. Los Angeles has that ability. I have proposed modeling a charter amendment after the city of Los Angeles so that we can temporarily remove a council member or any elected official when they are engaging in fraudulent conduct and claw back that money that's been paid to them if they're convicted. Our elected officials should not be able to profit from using taxpayer funds to fund their political campaign. It's not right. That's why I proposed my comprehensive anti-corruption plan to help deal with this.
Okay, starting with Marco. This is the flip side of that question, which is, apart from changes you wish to make in Chula Vista, what do you wish to preserve?
I love the city. I really do think it's that hidden gem in the region. One of the few places where middle-class families, where working-class families can find a nice place to live in a safe neighborhood with access to good schools, and that's what I'm looking to protect. We have a great opportunity here to help build upon that. We've got development going on the Bayfront. We've got a future development proposed for the east side of Otay Ranch area. So we've got to capitalize on that and make sure we can start living up to being that second largest city in the region while preserving what makes us great, which is having nice neighborhoods in every part of the city, having parks that our families can enjoy, having access to good schools, having a good relationship, and really helping to protect the city, helping to protect our families, making sure that our first responders, our police and fire have the resources they need to keep our neighborhoods safe, making sure we protect our finances. And by doing so, we're going to protect our future.
Yeah, I'd like to preserve the momentum that we now have in the city of Chula Vista and make sure we don't lose it. We spent decades and decades, Teresa Asara will know, trying to develop the west side and particularly the Bayfront, and to see those cranes go up with that beautiful development is is just astonishing. I want to preserve that. I want to make sure that we don't lose that momentum, again, particularly on the west side. If you're in Chula Vista, you know about Harborside Park. I think that is a treasure that needs to be kept. Our parks on the west side are far and few between. We need to make sure we preserve those. And we do need to preserve the feeling we have in the neighborhoods and just the family life that we have down here, both on the west and the east side. The east side neighborhoods are beautiful, as we all know. They're walkable, and we spend a lot of time working on those. We need to preserve the way of life in both sides, both the west.
Okay, Bart, we'll start with you on this next one. Both of you have stated that you will make Chula Vista safer. How will you do that?
Sure. Well, the first thing that you do is make sure that government is run transparently and that the political leaders are accountable for what they do. That alone will make things safer. From a neighborhood standpoint, we need to support law enforcement and first responders. I have both the Police Officers Association, the Deputy Sheriff's Association endorsing me, David Bejarano, Fire Chief Jim Gehring, because they know when I was here in the city of Chula Vista for 20 years, I gave them the support they needed to keep our neighborhood safe. They need fast, quick, accurate advice. They need to be able to utilize their tools as efficiently as they can. And I think that's a huge part of the city attorney's office, and that's what I intend to do. I've done it before, and I intend to do it again.
Marco?
Yeah, we need to keep every neighborhood safe. I'm going to focus on helping to prevent unnecessary gun violence, expanding our gun violence restraining order unit, making sure that our residents can help take advantage of that. I want to make sure that our police and fire have the resources, the technology, the support they need to keep us safe. I've been endorsed by the firefighters, first responders, because they know I have the experience that they can trust to help keep Chula Vista safe. I also want to help deal with our homelessness situation. That's part of keeping our city safe, is making sure that everybody has the resources they need to be prosperous in this city. And when we have people taking over our parks, well then guess what? Not every part of this city is safe. So we got to help deal with all facets, from gun safety to making sure our police and fire have the resources they need to get every neighborhood safe.
Okay, this next question will start with Marco. Will you take into consideration comments from the general public? And if yes, how will you go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I really think that one of the things that we do well is or that portions of the city does well, is that community outreach. So I plan to do the same with the city attorney's office. Go meet somewhere, whether it's once a month or some other frequency. Make my office, make myself open to the public, open to our residents. I've been on the campaign trail. I've never done this before. I'm not a politician. But the one thing I've enjoyed is knocking on people's doors or calling people on the phone and getting feedback from residents like you. It helps me understand issues better. And so I'm always going to take advantage of that opportunity, because I think not only is it good for our residents to be able to have that open line of communication with their elected officials, with their city attorney, but it's good for me to know what's going on. This is a big city now. I mean, when I grew up, we've doubled in size since I was a child. And so we can't know what's going on in every part of the city all the time. So it's going to take that open line of communication so I know what's going on. And so that we could tailor responses to those issues.
Yeah, so being connected to the community is super important, and as an elected city attorney, not only do I think it's important, but I think it's really going to be one of my duties. is to make sure that the voice of the residents, not just the voice of the politicians, is heard in City Hall. Yeah, we'll be doing community outreach. My office will be an open door policy, and I'm looking forward to talking to people, just like Marco said, out in the community. That's where you really start hearing about what the real issues are in the neighborhoods, and I'm sure the politicians that are out there now hear over and over again that one of the big issues, in addition to homeless, is the rise in crime. I met a gentleman the other day. He said, I had my work truck broken into a week ago, and just yesterday it was broken into again. So it was basically 2 times in 1 week. So that needs to be communicated to the police. We need to make sure that that neighborhood is being well policed, and the only way to do that is make sure the lines of communication to the residents are open to the city attorney's office.
Okay, this next question, we'll start with Bart. This will be the last question, and because it's two-parter, you've got some extra time. If elected, what do you plan to accomplish in your first 30 days and your first 90 days?
Good question. So, as some of you might know, if you're following this race at all, the city attorney's office right now is down. I hate to use the word decimated, but it is decimated. We've lost the top upper level of city attorneys, from Glenn Guggens, the former city attorney, to Simone Silva and myself. And so the first thing I'm going to do in 30 days is start the machine to get those positions filled. We need to have competent, experienced attorneys in those positions to make City Hall work better. So that's what I'm focused on in the first 30 days. In addition, spilling into the first 30 days and then into the 90 days, I want to get to speak with each one of, obviously, the council members and mayor, find out what they need from the city attorney's office to make the city work better, and actually go to each of the department heads in each of the departments to make sure that the city attorney's office is supporting them in the way they need support, so that we have some pretty good leaders and good department heads. What we need to do is make sure they have the tools to make this city great, and we're gonna just blast through things once things get set up.
Marco?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said. Right now, and 30 days, 90 days. 90 days is not a long time when it comes to legal issues, but we've got an office to build up. As Bart alluded to, we've lost attorneys recently, whether to retirement or people leaving the city and taking other positions. So we've got an opportunity here to recruit and hire competent, ethical, experienced experts in this field. And I plan on doing just that. And I think Bart made a good point, which is what I had planned on doing, which is building that relationship and having that feedback from our city departments, because I intend to have attorneys dedicated to specific departments so that we can help meet their legal needs, and that our attorneys can develop that expertise on advising specific departments. Each department in the city has its own needs, its own legal issues that are recurring in nature. And so I look forward to getting attorneys up to speed, or that are up to speed on these issues, so we can so that we can make the city operate more efficiently. The feedback I've gotten recently is that legal issues are not being answered in a timely fashion, so we got to change that. Let's build up this office. Let's get answers to questions. Let's get the city running efficiently again.
Okay. Before the candidates give their closing remarks, I want to thank you for being an attentive audience and asking some great questions. To learn more about the work of the League, please visit our website, which is lwvsandiego.org. At the table on the way out, or you may have already gotten one, this is some info on Vote 111, Vote 411. The League of Women Voters has a website, and it's vote411.org, that provides valuable information on the local, state, and federal level. As I said, there's a bookmark there. Also, you can put in your address and it will customize so you only see the issues and the candidates that you will be voting on. You don't have to go through everybody. And now for the closing statements. Please hold your applause till both candidates have completed their statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. We're going to reverse the order of the opening statement, and so we will start with Bart.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the League and the Southwest Civic Association for putting on this event. I appreciate y'all coming out and listening to it. You know, with the city attorney, it's different than council member or mayor or policymaker. For a city attorney, real experience counts. And I spent 20 years of my life in Chula Vista, day after day, working for the city attorney's office and really for the city of Chula Vista. As we all know, Chula Vista right now is really going to face some real crisis and really facing some challenges right now. And that's why real experience matters, because right now we need a experienced, trusted, ethical leader in the city attorney's office that'll bring, one, transparency and accountability to City Hall. You know, we're sick and tired of the corruption, and we need to get it on track. Transparency and accountability is the way you do that. Secondly, we need to stand up, as we've been saying, we need to stand up for our law enforcement and our first responders. And from the city attorney's position, the way you do that is by giving them quick, accurate legal advice and making sure that they're doing things within the confines of the law. We also make sure that we're guarding precious taxpayer resources. That's one of the things the city attorneys do, and I'll continue to do that. I did that for 20 years. And finally, we need to make the city run more efficiently so that it benefits the residents. All those things are something that the city attorney can do. That's what I did for 20 years. You know, I'm not running for the city attorney position as a political stepping stone or as a promotion. Heck, I had the job. I was city attorney. I worked really my career's life in the city attorney's office. I deeply care about the well-being of Chula Vista and the well-being of its citizens. So if elected as city attorney, I'm going to bring these things for sure, these 4 factors for sure to the office, and I'll do it with integrity.
Marco?
Yeah, we need a city attorney here with experience, with integrity, that has deep roots in this community, that is a reflection of this community, that has the experience that we can trust. I have been invested in this community my whole life. I have a vested interest in making sure that this community continues to be safe, continues to be livable, continues to allow our residents to be prosperous. My wife and I are raising our 3 kids here, so I have a huge stake in this outcome. We need a city attorney with experience. I have dedicated my career to advising cities. I've had the opportunity to see what works, what doesn't work. And I plan to take what I've learned in San Diego, in other cities around the region, and implement that here. I plan on making this city, or restoring trust and accountability at City Hall. I'm the only candidate that has a comprehensive anti-corruption plan to deal with the issue we're facing right now in our city council. Let's have the ability to suspend members that are engaging in fraud. Let's close campaign finance loopholes so that people can't take on ridiculous amounts of debt without having the requirement to pay that back. And let's get an independent auditor in place so that we can open up the books together. I have a vested interest in this city. I have a huge stake in making sure our city continues to be safe, livable, and affordable. And I have the respect and trust of members of both political parties, from local elected officials, city council members, county supervisors, our congressmen, and even Dan Smith Diaz, who I ran against in the primary. He knows that we need somebody from this community to be in this position.
On behalf of the Southwest Chula Vista Civic Association and the League of Women Voters of San Diego, I want to thank the candidates for running for office and attending our forum this afternoon. And to thank you again, you are here this afternoon because you follow our motto, don't just be a voter, be an informed voter. Thank you.